My background is in online marketing and social media marketing, primarily for consumer electronics and entertainment brands. And so I've had a blast doing it, gotten to know Adam over the last couple of years, share a lot of the same mindsets. I'm really excited to help people learn about this exciting medium and help them understand how to connect with consumers. So I'd like to introduce you to, as you know, Adam Metz, and then as well Kurt Collins and Tessa Greenwood, and give each of them a chance to introduce themselves for you. So Kurt, would you start?
My name is Kurt Collins. I've been an entrepreneur now for about 10 years, both on the software engineering side and on the business development and marketing side of things. More recently, I've been working with social media companies, e-commerce companies, photography companies, and gaming companies to help them market and build partnerships within the space.
I'm Adam Metz. My little company is called Metz. We're a social web strategy consulting firm, and we work primarily with lifestyle brands and travel brands. And I actually used to work with Tessa at Launch Squad about a year and a half ago, where I did the social web strategies for their mainly tech clients and some consumer work too. And then I actually worked for Kurt a while back. I was doing their social web strategy for his company, Cartfly. And so I think it's almost a dangerous thing to put you and I in the same room with a bottle of wine.
Yeah.
We might invent a problem.
Very dangerous, especially in front of me.
Yeah.
I'm Tessa Greenwood. I work with Launch Squad, where Adam used to be the social media advisor. Launch Squad is a company that was founded to help emerging technology companies kind of launch their image to the world. And we are a PR firm, but we do a lot of social media. My background before I came to Launch Squad and worked with technology companies was actually with fashion and beauty companies like Elizabeth Arden, Boots, and Carolee Accessories in New York City. So I have some experience in the retail sphere, and I'm really excited about social media, and I think there's a lot of interesting things that have yet to happen in this space.
Great, thank you guys. So what we're going to do too, we're going to just go through kind of the ABCs of social media too off the bat and get through a couple questions and then dive into the meat of it. So the first question I want to pose to the panel is, what is your definition of social media? Do you want to start, Kurt?
Sure. Social media, in my definition, is a way for people to interact around a product or a brand. And that product or brand could actually be an individual, or it could be an actual product such as an iPhone. And to me, social media started as a way to facilitate and foster communication between people, and I think it's now evolving into not just obvious forms of communication, but intangible forms of communication as well. So you see things such as people saying, I'm walking into the Apple store over Twitter. To me, that's an intangible form of communication that actually promotes a brand without it being a direct promotion. It's a constantly evolving thing, but to me, it's about communication.
Well, I get the question, like even during the day, like I had a client down at a racetrack in Southern California. She sent me this email with a link in it, and she said, is this social media? And I'm like, okay, well, does it pass the test? And she's like, what test? And I said, Gail, come on, remember the two-prong test? She's like, oh yeah, I remember the test. So I sort of have like just these two things, and so the first prong of the test is like, and this is totally from like being in journalism school and having, because in journalism, all the journalism laws are like, well, it doesn't pass the three-prong test or the five-prong test, and you can never remember any of those prongs, so you gotta just make it a little simpler. So I have two. So the first one is, can a consumer talk to another consumer using this stuff, and will no one mess with it? Like, meaning, does the brand not like intermediate or disintermediate the conversation? And then the second prong is, can the consumer change their mind and edit it later to some degree? So those are sort of like the benchmarks I use. So when you think about the Domino's thing last week, remember the Domino's pizza fiasco where these smart kids in Conroe, North Carolina went on, they took their little flip cam and they started taking mozzarella cheese and shoving it up their noses, and they made a video and put it on YouTube. Well, they were able to say what they wanted. They were consumers basically contacting other consumers, and they tried to edit it later by deleting their video, not realizing that the interwebs are sort of permanent. And but it basically passed the test, and they lost their jobs about 12 hours later.
I think they've pretty much covered the definition of social media, which is listening, creating a community, putting positive feedback back into that community, or negative feedback, or whatever. But I think that it's all about, I study journalism also, and we learned to just kind of create, to be the filters of all information that came out into the world, and now anyone can contribute content. And I feel like as a consumer and as just a citizen, I feel so much more comfortable knowing that I can go online and
There's also the whole idea of some curated content, some non-curated content. Like I was at a Super Bowl party, maybe like I guess it was 3 months ago or so, and I was talking with Lawrence from Rate It All. He's the guy that runs RateItAll.com. It's one of the earlier sites that rates things like consumer electronics brands.
Yeah.
Basically, like I'm thinking of buying a new TV. It's my first flat screen TV. Don't know much about it. I'm going to go on there, but I will expect that Lawrence and his team, who are the curators of the information, will filter out the bogus information. So maybe if some sleazy person from a marketing department at some TV company posts something saying, yeah, Sanyo's awesome, you're like, wait a second, this guy has the IP address of Sanyo.com, maybe we should remove that, that kind of thing. So there's sort of a trust factor that's included.
I actually take the complete opposite stance from Mets in that I think the advantage to social media is the fact that it is social, and that at some point in time, at some point of critical mass, the community will moderate. So in the beginning, I agree that you may need somebody going in there and saying, hey, look, this person's clearly from Sanyo. It's probably not the best thing to put up on there. But you reach a critical mass of 20, 30, 40 different reviews on a particular camera, and that individual is negligible. If a product truly does suck, then the consumers will say so. At some point in time, they will speak out, and that's one of the advantages that we have with social media, and that's one of the things that actually scares products and brands at this point, because there's no control, and they can't buy control anymore over this. So
I got off the phone around 4 o'clock today with a really large hotel brand that initially called me maybe 2 or 3 months ago. It's one of the biggest hotel brands in the Bay Area, and their local hotel in Brisbane really wants to start a big social web strategy, but corporate is just freaking plain scared, and it'll probably sit on the back burner for 6 months, and their competitors will do it, and then they'll eventually do it. But the sort of the fear mentality that we're talking about it's very, very real. It happens every day.
And I think that's some great answers and thoughts on that. The next question we had about this too would be, why should a company jump into, or a brand consider jumping into social media? So you want to start with that, Adam?
Sure. So I'm thinking really specifically about apparel brands. So, people who make T-shirts and bags, jeans, purses. Even and almost fragrances and jewelry. Kind of put into that category. The nice thing is that the price points of the merchandise itself is not that high. I mean, you're talking 10, 20, maybe $100, $200, $500. I mean, sure, if you're into high-end couture, you're talking all right, a couple $1,000. But the fact is, people can talk all night about their favorite scotch or their favorite kind of purse or whatever, but you can't talk all night about semiconductor technology. And but the fact is, having a conversation, these materials or these brands are just well suited for this stuff anyway. You could be down at Sugar on a Saturday night or something, and just hear people going off about what type of who makes the best men's ties, and people will argue about it for 15 or 20 minutes. And you're like, wow, that's a conversation that could have been had online. So I think brands of this nature, not only are they suited for it, but the e-commerce fulfillment component to monetize it, right on the spot, it's fairly simple. You have companies like Kurt's company who has a product for that, and there's so many brands that make it. So it's sure, you can have the conversation, but right there could be a little flash window that would pop up, and you could boom, just buy the thing. If you like it, you could buy the thing right there. That's pretty cool.
Tessa, you want to go next on that?
Yeah, I think that the question is, why should people get involved with social media? I think it depends on what you want to offer. I think that what Adam was talking about earlier with the fear factor is that when you are involved with social media, people really see everything about your brand, and you're completely exposed, depending on what aspect of social media you want to do. But let's say you start a Twitter account. You can't just do that half-assed. You have to put your everything into it, and you have to be able to talk and speak to the things that you're not doing correctly. So I think that just overcoming that fear factor is making sure you have a quality product, and all businesses should be, in an ideal world, doing that. But I think that, I always tell my clients that the number one most important thing about social media is that you have an opportunity through a lot of these networks to kind of see what your consumers who are using your product think about your product, and that's a huge advantage for anybody. And you can interact with them. There's customer service going on there also. So
it's also one of the things I've noticed is sort of a gateway drug to social media for a lot of apparel brands is sort of what I would call social media customer service, working with